John Quincy Adams. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more and become better, then you are a true leader. When elections end, slavery begins. Freedom once lost is forever lost. There are two ways to conquer states, the first is by the sword, the second is by duty. Never allow any person with power to threaten freedom. Try and fail, but don't fail to try. There is one principle which pervades all the institutions of this country, and which must always operate as an obstacle to the granting of favors to newcomers. This is a land, not of privileges, but of equal rights. Among the sentiments of most powerful operation upon the human heart, and most highly honorable to the human character, are those of veneration for our forefathers, and of love for our posterity. Pronounce him one of the first men of his age, and you have yet not done him justice. Think of your forefathers and of your posterity. Andrew Jackson. The wisdom of man never yet contrived a system of taxation that would operate with perfect equality. One man with courage makes a majority. Fear not, the people may be deluded for a moment, but cannot be corrupted. It is to be regretted that the rich and powerful too often bend the axe of government to their own selfish purposes. The people are the government, administering it by their agents they are the government, the sovereign power. The duty of government is to leave commerce to its own capital and credit as well as all other branches of business, protecting all in their legal pursuits, granting exclusive privileges to none. We are beginning a new era in our government. I cannot too strongly urge the necessity of a rigid economy and an inflexible determination not to enlarge the income beyond the real necessities of the government. As long as our government is administered for the good of the people, and is regulated by their will as long as it secures to us the rights of persons and of property, liberty of conscience and of the press, it will be worth defending. Money is power, and in that government which pays all the public officers of the states will all political power be substantially concentrated. Money is power, and in that government which pays all the public officers of the states will all political power be substantially concentrated. Martin Van Buren. The United States have fulfilled in good faith all their treaty stipulations with the Indian tribes, and have in every other instance insisted upon a like performance of their obligations. The less government interferes with private pursuits, the better for general prosperity. It is easier to do a job right than to explain why you didn't. I tread in the footsteps of illustrious men in receiving from the people the sacred trust confided to my illustrious predecessor. May her ways be ways of pleasantness and all her paths be peace. From a small community we have risen to a people powerful in numbers and in strength, but with our increase has gone hand in hand the progress of just principles. All the lessons of history and experience must be lost upon us if we are content to trust alone to the peculiar advantages we happen to possess. There is a power in public opinion in this country and I thank God for it is the most honest and best of all powers, which will not tolerate an incompetent or unworthy man to hold in his weak or wicked hands the lives and fortunes of his fellow citizens. How imperious, then, is the obligation imposed upon every citizen, in his own sphere of action, whether limited or extended, to exert himself in perpetuating a condition of things so singularly happy. A man who refuses to defend his rights, revoked by his government, deserves only to be a slave, and must be punished as an enemy of his country and a friend of her ill-wishers. William Harrison. I have determined never to remove a Secretary of the Treasury without communicating all the circumstances attending such removal to both houses of Congress. The strongest of all governments is that which is most free. Sir, I wish you to understand the true principles of the government. I wish them carried out. I ask nothing more. The people of the District of Columbia are not the subjects of the people of the states, but free American citizens. There is no part of the means placed in the hands of the executive which might be used with greater effect for unhallowed purposes than the control of the public press. It may be observed, however, that organized associations of citizens requiring compliance with their wishes too much resemble the recommendations of Athens to her allies, supported by an armed and powerful fleet. The only legitimate right to govern is an express grant of power from the governed. All the measures of the government are directed to the purpose of making the rich richer and the poor poorer. There is no part of the means placed in the hands of the executive which might be used with greater effect for unhallowed purposes than the control of the public press. It is preposterous to suppose that a thought could for a moment have been entertained that the president, placed at the capital, in the center of the country, could better understand the wants and wishes of the people than their own immediate representatives, who spend a part of every year among them, living with them, often laboring with them, and bound to them by the triple tie of interest, duty, and affection. John Tyler. I should be pleased to see all the nations on the earth prosperous and happy and rich, for it would furnish to me the best evidence of the prosperity of my native land. Liberty and equality are captivating sounds, but they often captivate to destroy. Wealth can only be accumulated by the earnings of industry and the savings of frugality. I can never consent to being dictated to. Nature governs man by no principle more fixed than that which leads him to pursue his interest. A republican government can only be supported by virtue, and the end of all our legislation should be to encourage our fellow citizens in its daily practice. Parties are continually changing. The men of today give place to the men of tomorrow, and the idols which one set worship, the next destroy. A manufacturing nation is, in every sense of the word, dependent on others. Look to England. Cut off from the markets of the world, misery and ruin await her. Let it be henceforth proclaimed to the world that man's conscience was created free, that he is no longer accountable to his fellow man for his religious opinions, being responsible therefore only to his God. Our wise men flattered us into the adoption of the banking system under the idea that boundless wealth would result from the adoption.